AQUABIZ, all the best knowledge for aquatic system.
It's really wonderful being here with you all, shrimp farmers of Thailand, coming from different parts of Thailand. India, as such, if you look at it, has learned quite a lot from Thailand. And, the first batch of broodstock after the introduction of Vaname has come from Thailand. It has, in fact, come from Aqua in August 2009. The two leading feed companies in India are Thai companies. One is Thai Union and the other is CP. So we have a lot of connect with Thailand, similar in terms of the way we do farming and the way we approach, the industry. But one thing that's different in India from other countries is stocking densities. Still, we go with lower densities. Today, I'm going to talk about status of Indian shrimp farming. Indian shrimp production, if you look at, it has been exponentially increasing after the introduction of Vaname, and it touched a peak of close to 1 million tons. But this year, in all likelihood, it's going to go down because of the prices and other things like disease pressure and viability. See, two figures are empirical in any shrimp farming nation: the broodstock that is used and the exports. You guess other things, whereas the export figures tell you the story and also the broodstock that's used. If you look at India, we don't have any broodstock that's produced within the country. So the import figures tell you the story. So if you look at this year, our imports till June are down by about 14%. And if you compare this year's import from 2022, it's down by almost 38%. That tells you the story. Very clear, import figures are recorded, so the production is likely to go down this year. If you look at the broodstock imports this year so far, SIS, Shrimp Improvement Systems, is the leading supplier to India. They've supplied about 40,000. And the number two is Aqua, about 18,000, 28%. And we have some imports from Kona Bay. Now they're coming up with a broodstock multiplication center in India. So their number is likely to go up in the second half. And API is given about 1,400 animals. API is basically giving CP stock. India has banned the import of broodstock from Southeast Asian countries in 2013. And it has not been revoked since then. So CP broodstock is coming through US through API facility, and Blue Genetics has given a small quantity of 600 animals. The most favored broodstock in India is Aqua. They are not in a position to supply from Thailand. Broodstock import from Thailand is banned. They are having a smaller facility in US. That's why they're not able to supply. So the trends in breeding are changing. Earlier, each company used to have only one line of broodstock. But today, every company has 3 different lines. One is the growth line, the other is the balanced line, the third one is the tolerant line. And in India, most of the hatcheries, they look to go for balanced line and tolerant lines. They're not using the growth lines because you have a lot of disease pressure. Earlier, you used to have just one disease or two diseases. Today, you have a host of diseases. You have viral diseases, you have bacterial diseases, you have microsporidians. So fast-growing lines are not really giving good results. Balanced lines and at the tolerant line, they seem to be working well. So most of the hatcheries have switched over to the balanced lines and the tolerant lines. That is one changing trend. And all said and done, EHP is the killer. See, the dynamics of Asian industry, not just India, had changed after the emergence of EHP. Everything has changed. It's not going according to the plan. Actually, if you look at AHP&D, it was not a major issue. It's the EHP. Initially, we thought AHP&D is the problem, but EHP is the real killer. I mean, you cannot really go by a plan. Your survivals have come down. You're not able to pull the crop for a long time. So EHP has changed the entire dynamics. Not only in India, in every Asian country for that matter. And we don't have stocks that are tolerant for EHP. Some of the lines are showing tolerant, but none of the lines what we have today, they have good tolerance for EHP. So if breeding companies can come up with EHP tolerant stocks, it's gonna help the entire sector in Asia. I mean, if we have to compete with Ecuador, we have to come up with new lines that can kind of tolerate EHP at least to a certain extent. And the other thing is, if you compare the broodstock of Asia with Ecuador, I mean, they use the broodstock from the ponds. The entire shrimp farming of Ecuador is the genetic nucleus, means whatever the good animals are there that are resisting the diseases, that are growing well, they take it directly from the ponds and take it to their hatcheries. Whereas we can't do that in Asia because we are working with the philosophy of SPF in tandem with biosecurity. So we can't pick up the animals. But what we can do is we can do the selection trials within our farming areas. I mean, now the selection is happening in the nucleus breeding center. So, I mean, that should change. The trial should happen in the farming countries. So we are putting a lot of pressure on the breeding companies in India, and some of the companies have started doing these sentinel trials. They're bringing different families of their genetics. It could be PLs or it could be broodstock, produce seed or stock those PLs of different families in the farming environment, find out which line is doing better, and produce the next generation from that line. So the efficiencies of the farming are going to improve. So basically they have to do the trials in the farming nation and take that information back to the breeding center and come up with the production. That's going to help, you know, because we can't completely follow the Ecuador model. At least the trials have to be done within the farming countries. That's what we strongly believe in, and we have been advocating it to all the breeding companies in India who are supplying to India, and companies are coming forward. Fact file of India, if you look at India, last year we have produced about 850,000 tons with a feed consumption of 1.2 million. Last year we produced about 80 billion. If you look at, it's about 60%. I mean, it captures all the failures also. I mean, the failures because of white spot. I mean, the stocking densities have come down. Earlier, it used to be 60 to 40. Now we have come down to a level of 20 to 40. And by decreasing the densities, we are able to overcome the disease pressure. That is the strategy what India is following. I mean, if you compare India with the other countries of Asia, densities are way lower in India. And losses are due to infectious diseases and deficiency in farm husbandry. We have a whole lot of disease issues as well. Farming areas, if you see, I mean, 60% of the farming is done in low salinities, between 3 and 7. It is from the bores, soil water, or it could be from the running water, river water. And the other 40% is done in higher salinities in the creeks, and some of the ponds take the water from the sea. Yeah, pond sizes, if you look at in India, they range from 0.4 to 1 hectare. And on an average, we do 2 crops a year. If you look at the state of Andhra Pradesh, farmers go for 2 to 3 crops because the weather is good throughout the year. If you go to the other states like Odisha, West Bengal, and Gujarat, which are in the northern part of India, there they can only go for 1 crop because the winter is very harsh. So on an average in India, if you see, it's like 2 crops a year. And growth rates have come down in India because of all these diseases. It could be somewhere in between 15 grams to 20 grams. I'm talking about the average. There could be some farms where the growth rates are like, 0.25, 0.3 also. But on an average, if you look at, it's about 0.15 to 0.20. It has substantially come down the growth rates in the last 3-4 years after the emergence of EHP, as I told you earlier. And days of culture, they range from 70 to 120 days. Earlier, Indian farmers used to take it for a minimum of 100 days, but now they're forced to harvest because of white feces and EHP. Farmers are going for lower densities, as I told you earlier. Farmers, based on the creeks, where the salinities range from 15 to 30, their Vaname, for some reason, is not doing good because of all these diseases coming together. So there, farmers are switching over to tiger, and they're doing good. Tiger looks to be a bit tolerant for EHP and white feces, Efficiencies, if you look at, we produce about 10.58 tons per million. This is again capturing all the failures, If you look at the successful farmers, they could be harvesting even 20, 25 tons also, few successful farmers. And we have a traditional belt also, which is about 40,000 hectares. There the stocking densities are very, very low, 1 per 1 square meter or 1 in 2 square meter. And they stock about 2 billion seed. The production is very low. They don't use any feed. And there also the survivals are only about 25%. Whenever there is white spot outbreak, they tend to lose. There, the production efficiency, if you see, it's about 8 metric tons a million. But there the costing is not much, It's only about the seed and the watch and ward. They don't use any feed. But if you can come up with disease-tolerant stock like what they have in Ecuador, probably, the profits are going to be doubled or quadrupled for that sense. Challenge of diseases, white spot, Vibrio and white feces, EHP, some of the idiopathic diseases, the causative agent is not known. We call it running mortality. We tend to lose the number. By the time we come to 70 days, the survivals become 70% or sometimes 60, 50%, These are all basically bacterial diseases, but the causative agents are not known yet. That's the reason why we are calling them idiopathic diseases. We don't have AHP and D, but we have other bacterial diseases. Otherwise, the story remains to be the same. But the disease pressure in India looks to be much higher than the other reason why we are going for low densities. And the reason could be our farming is very, very fragmented and it is very concentrated. You have more number of farmers and more number of ponds concentrated at one place. So biosecurity could be an issue. But, farmers have found out ways. They're coming up with collective breaks in between the crops and trying to get on with the farming. That is to an extent giving results. They're able to break the pathogen cycle by giving the breaks. But overall, if you look at the densities are lower. Losses due to diseases. Last year's, in 2021, Aquaculture has come up with a survey and found out we are losing almost about $1 billion, 140,000 tons of material is lost due to diseases. This year it could be more. If it is $1 billion USD in 2021, this year it could be $1.2 to $1.3 billion because the disease incidence has increased. Production cost, I've taken 50 count. When you talk about production cost, it could vary depending on the counts. It's coming to about $3, 252 Indian rupees. And if you look at the selling price, when I was making these slides, it's about 265 rupees. Today, it's about 280 or so. So if somebody is very successful, he could make only about 15 rupees or so. That is about 15 cents or so, or 10 cents or so. So the big killer is the price today. If you are producing 60, 70 corns, we don't have domestic market like the way they have it in China, or you have to an extent in Thailand and to an extent in Indonesia, Vietnam. That's the reason why India is going for lower densities, targeting bigger sizes. But again, if everybody is producing bigger sizes, there is no market. It's a niche market again, the bigger sizes. So we are caught in between it is difficult. That's one of the reasons why the production in India could go down this year. Impact of global warming. Summer months, water temperature is crossing 32 degrees Celsius. Mortalities are observed due to high Vibrio loads. And white spot incidences we never used to see in summer months. But for the last couple of years, we are seeing the incidences of white spot in summer months. It could be because the reason that Vibrio loads are on the higher side in summer months. There is an interplay between the diseases, At the same time, there is an interplay between the environment and the diseases, I mean, the temperatures are going up, your bacterial proliferation is increasing. That's the reason why you get to see a lot of running mortality during the summer months. And P. monodon looks to be doing well in summer months. I mean, that's our indigenous species. It looks to be tolerant for EHP and other bacterial loads. Each species is refractory to some of the diseases. So probably moving forward, we need to look at our indigenous species very seriously. I mean, not only in India, whole of Asia. Probably we need to look at our native shrimp species. I mean, if you look at our industry, we tend to blame each other. If you go to a hatchery operator, he will say the problem is all with the breeders. I mean, you guys have to change your ways. I mean, the husbandry in the farming has to be changed. The husbandry in the hatcheries have to be changed. That's what the breeder is going to say. You go to the farmer, he will say, I've been doing the same way like what I did like 5-6 years back. In fact, my practices have been improved. I'm a bit more careful than then, but I'm not getting results. It's the problem of the hatchery and it's the problem of the breeding. But what happened? The situation has changed. Like 4-5 years back, we never had these kind of diseases. Environment has changed in terms of, we have more diseases and there is interplay between the diseases, interplay between the weather and the diseases. So the entire environment has changed. So we need to change at every level. I mean, we cannot blame each other. I mean, each one of us, each segment of the value chain has to change. I mean, that's what I conclude by saying there should be wholesome changes at every step of the way to make the operations more efficient and help the industry to be sustainable. Thank you very much. Kapun Kap. And